Halloween is an abbreviation of Hallows Eve, which means the Night of the Saints, a celebration that is held on October 31st and in the evening of All Saints' Day in Western Christianity. Halloween is the first day of the three-day celebration of Allehalotide, which is an occasion in the church calendar to commemorate the dead, including saints, Christian martyrs, and other believers who have passed away. The general consensus is that many Halloween traditions are derived from harvest season ceremonies in ancient Celtic culture, particularly the Suven festival. These ceremonies probably had pagan roots, and Suwon became Halloween after Christianization in the early centuries of Christianity. Another group believes that Halloween was a Christian holiday from the beginning and had different origins from ancient celebrations such as Suwon. Common Halloween activities include making spoons, attending Halloween parties with special costumes, making Halloween pumpkins, lighting bonfires, playing apples, fortune-telling games, sleight of hand, visiting haunted houses, telling scary stories, and watching scary movies. In many parts of the world, Christian observances of All Saints' Day, such as attending church or lighting candles at the graves of the dead, are still popular, but in other countries the commercial and non-religious aspect of Halloween is more important. Some Christians have historically avoided eating meat as avoided on this day, a tradition that manifests itself in eating vegetarian dishes such as potato pancakes, apples, and soul cakes during the day's vibrancy. The origin of the name. The word Halloween is the name of the poem Halloween, 1785, by Robert Burns, a poem traditionally attributed to the Scots language. Halloween is a Christian word whose roots go back to around 1745. The word Halloween means Night of the Saints and comes from the Scottish term All Hallows Eve meaning, the night before All Saints' Day. Even Scots is even, which is synonymous with E'Norain. Over time, All Hallows Eve and became Halloween. Although the word All Hallows existed in Old English, All Hallows Eve itself was not seen until 1556. It is believed that the customs of today's Halloween were influenced by the folklore customs and beliefs of the Celtic nations. It is believed that some of these customs have their roots in the early religions of the people of these areas. Throughout Ireland, an unstable truce between customs and beliefs associated with Christianity, and practices associated with religions that existed before Christianity arrived in Ireland, were maintained. While some folklorists have traced Halloween's origins to the Roman festival of Pomona, goddess of fruits and seeds, or to a feast of the dead called the Parentalia, it is actually more closely related to the Celtic festival of Suven, which in Old Ireland was for end of summer was held. Suven was the first and most important of the quarterly days in the medieval Gaelic calendar and was celebrated on 31st October to 1st November in Ireland, Scotland and the Isle of Man. A similar festival was held at the same time of the year by the Celtic Britons, called in Wales Calan Gaeaf, in Cornwall Calan Gaeaf, and in Britain Calan Gaeaf, names that meant the first day of winter. In Celts' belief, one day ended at sunset and the next day began, therefore, this feast began the night before November 7th, the halfway point between the equinox and the autumnal solstice. Suven and Calan Gaeaf are mentioned in the earliest Irish and Welsh writings. These names were used by historians to refer to the Celtic customs of Halloween until the 19th century, and these words are still equivalent to Halloween in the Gaelic and Welsh languages. Suven/Calan Gaeaf marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter or the dark half of the year, and was the equinox like Beltane/Calan Mai, that is, when the border between this world and the other world reaches its thinnest. So Alsea, spirits or fairies, could easily come and go in this world. Most scholars consider the Alsea to be weaker forms of ancient deities whose power persisted in the minds of the natives even after the formal replacement of religious beliefs. The Alsea were both revered and feared, with people often asking the deity for comfort as they approached their homes. In Suwon, it was believed that the Alsea had to be appeased so that the people would survive their trap in the winter, so they offered food and drink or parts of their products outside the house for the Alsea. It is also said that the spirits of the dead returned to their former homes in search of hospitality. Places were arranged to welcome them by the dinner table and by the fire. The belief that the spirits of the dead return home on one night of the year and must be appeased appears to have ancient roots and is present in many cultures around the world. In 19th century Ireland, candles were lit and formal prayers were said for the departed spirits. After this, eating, drinking, and games began. Throughout Ireland and England, household celebrations included rituals and games related to foretelling one's future, especially one's death and marriage. Apples and nuts were often used in these divination rituals. These included boiling apples, roasting nuts, scratching or staring at a mirror, pouring molten lead or white in water, interpreting dreams, etc. A special fire was lit and rituals were related to it. Their flames, smoke and ashes were considered to have protective and purifying powers and were also used for divination. In some places, torches were lit as a symbol of the sun and they believed that its fire would protect their homes and fields. The kindling of fire is said to have been a form of imitative or sympathetic magic. They imitated the form of the sun to aid the power of growth and ward off the withering and gloom of winter. In Scotland, these bonfires and divination games were banned by church elders in some areas. In Wales, bonfires were lit to keep the spirits of the dead from returning to the earth. In later periods, it was said that starting this fire would keep the devil away. Since at least the 16th century, the festival in Ireland, Scotland, the Isle of Man, and Wales has included masking, dumbing down, and spooning, performed by people going from house to house in special clothing, or in disguise, usually and they would pray or sing songs for food. It may have originally been a ritual whereby people impersonated the Alcesi, or spirits of the dead, and received items from them, such as the custom of spirit cakes. Imitating ghosts or wearing a disguise was believed to protect one from them. It was recommended that the mumblers and the spooners take off the old ghosts of winter and wish for change and happiness. In parts of southern Ireland, spoonbills had a hobby horse. A man dressed as a white mare, Lair Bon, went from house to house asking young people for food by reciting poems that sometimes hinted at paganism. If the household gave him food, he could expect happiness from Makala. Failure to do so would result in misfortune. In Scotland, youths would go door to door with faces painted or blackened, often threatening mischief if not welcomed. F. Marion McNeill believes that this ancient festival involved people dressed as ghosts, and these faces were blackened with ashes taken from a certain sacred fire. In parts of Wales, men dressed up as a scary creature called the Gurishud. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, young people in Glamorgan and Orkney wore disguises. Elsewhere in Europe, masked and decorated horses were another part of annual festivals. However, in Celtic-speaking areas they were especially suitable for the night, when supernatural beings were said to be outside their realm and could be imitated or repelled by wandering people. From at least the 18th century, imitation of evil spirits led to a joke in Ireland and the Scottish Highlands. Dressing up and playing pranks on Halloween spread to England in the 20th century. Traditionally, pranksters used hollow turnips or cow beets, often carved with grotesque faces, as lanterns. Those who built them claimed that the lanterns represented ghosts, or were used to ward off evil spirits. In the 19th century these lanterns were common in parts of Ireland and the Highlands of Scotland, as well as in Somerset. In the 20th century, lanterns spread to other parts of England and generally became known as jack-lanterns.